We're out here right now with wet roots and rocks, and I'm on a 120 millimeter hardtail, and so line choice is gonna be pretty important. There are a lot of ways that I could ride down this root garden over here. Right now, I'm standing trailside off the bike. I could look at it, I could analyze it, I could decide what the exact right path down those roots is, but when you're riding a bike, you have to do that very quickly. It's kind of like learning to read. When you first start reading, you're sounding out the word and looking at each letter and trying to figure it out. And once you learn how to read, you just look at it and you know what it says. Line choice is kind of the same way. The more you practice, the more you can read the trail. But it doesn't work if you're looking straight down at your front tire. Some beginners have a tendency to just naturally look down in front of their tire, right ahead, and that gives you a bird's eye view of what you're about to ride over. But if you're traveling at any significant speed, there's not much you can do to change your line at that point. And so what you want to do is look out ahead. Look straight out in front of you, because you're gonna hit that stuff in about a second. Now, this can be a tough habit to break, because after all, how are you supposed to ride over something technical if you're not looking at it? You want to be looking down at where your tire's about to go, but no, it doesn't work that way. Trust me, try it. Look like 15, 20 feet out in front of you, and if you're going faster, look out further. The faster you are going, the further ahead you have to look to plan your line. So let's start out with some really, really basic stuff. Here, we have a corner that goes almost 90 degrees, and you can see there's a bunch of roots right here. Wet roots. If you live someplace where there are trees or it rains, you're gonna have wet roots or wet rocks. And the angle at which you approach those roots is important. That wasn't me pretending to fall. That was me falling every time I took the crappy line. And I'm quite used to riding in these conditions, and I still fell. If you take the wrong line, there's nothing that's gonna get you out of it besides jumping over something to a better part of the trail. When you're coming down the trail, naturally, it feels like you should just go over these roots right over here, but then you're set up to be cornering on all these roots at the same angle that you're riding. And when you're hitting a root, you want to hit it as perpendicular as possible. If you ride over a wet root at a perpendicular angle, you go right over it. If you hit it at an angle, your tire gets washed out and you are on the ground probably smashing into those roots. And so in this case, we're definitely gonna be better off taking the outside line and then pointing our way down this section of trail which doesn't have any roots on it. So here we have an interesting decision to make. Here is what looks like the intended trail. It kind of goes off to the right, and then you go left, and then you zig right again to continue down the trail, or you can go straight over this rock, and you're just going straight the whole way, carrying speed. Only problem is today it's proper wet out, and so I'd probably choose that line, but let's try both of them and find out. Now, why would you choose one line over the other? I mean, what's the reasoning? Well, some lines are the fastest line, the most direct line, one that you would take in a race. Some lines are the smoothest line, and so if you're in rough conditions or it's wet, maybe you want to take the smoothest one. And some lines are the funnest. And oftentimes, those three options are one and the same. So this off-camber wet rock ended up working out pretty well. It was plenty grippy, and I was able to carry my momentum straight down the trail. I would say this is the fastest and funnest line. I don't know if it's the smoothest line. Probably is. There are a lot of bumps here. So this line, which goes around the big boulder, is kind of flat. There are a lot of bumps, but you're not on anything off-camber, and so I personally didn't feel like I was at risk. But it is a further distance and you gotta go back uphill. And so I didn't find it to be particularly fun, but in wet conditions like this, it's probably the smarter decision. So here we have a little fork in the road, or a pine tree. The trail that we're coming from is over there. Seems like an open and shut case to me. You come down this trail over this rock and roots and you're on your way. It's the most direct route. It seems pretty fun too. Why would you instead go all the way around this tree and make a big turn that you don't have to make? Well, now we're pointed in the other direction. This is what you're gonna be looking at, and you can see there's a hard left turn after this feature. And so if you take what looks to be the most direct route and go over this rock, you gotta slam on your brakes and take a flat turn. If you take this big wide turn that goes around, add some distance, you are set up perfectly to shoot down the trail and carry your momentum. Let's try the rock first. You know what? I think the rock is the clear winner. Yes, I have to take a sharper turn at the end, but it's only one turn. If you go this way, you have to turn almost 3 times to get through it, and it really sucks up your momentum. So yes, you're pointed straight down the trail, but you just lost all your speed back there. When going over the rock, you don't lose much speed at all, and then you have to slow down a little bit to make the turn, and it's not that sharp of a turn. Now, if these routes were a little bit smoother, or this turn was a little bit sharper, then the tables would turn. Then maybe I would lean more towards the outside line. But in this case, rock's the clear winner. So that's where we're coming from right there. And we come up to this rock ledge, and you can either go off of it to an uphill rock, which looks pretty violent and unpleasant, or you can go to the left. You kind of have to turn, go down these routes, and then zigzag to get back down on the trail. I don't know which line I hate worse. Let's try it. I don't particularly care for either of those lines. This one just feels like doo-doo, and this one is just, I don't know, kills all your speed. I got a better idea. Yes, just jumping over it is almost always faster, usually smoother, and always more fun. This was meant to be an introduction to line choice for beginners. We haven't covered cornering, we haven't even touched climbing. There's so much more to learn, but hopefully for beginners, this changes your habits. Instead of looking down at just the obstacle in front of you, you're looking 2-3 obstacles ahead as far as the trail will allow you to plan. Once you learn how to read, you're looking at the entire sentence, and once you learn how to play chess, you're thinking 3, 4, 5, 6 moves ahead. That's how you're supposed to ride. I hope you found this video interesting. I hope you found it useful. I hope many of you learned something, and if you didn't, I hope you at least found it entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time. Hopefully those look like good lines.